Good evening. I'll call the in-person meeting of the June Health and Human Services Committee meeting to order. Is there anybody from the public that would wish to address us? Nobody. Any corrections, deletions to last month's committee minutes? Okay, seeing none, we'll go on to our resolutions then.
This evening there are two resolutions for consideration. First, authorizing agreement for early warning wastewater surveillance platform in relation to COVID-19.
Entertain a motion. Mr. Dodo, second. Mr. Nabawanek. Is there any further education that the chairman or that Mr. Hagman would wish to offer on this resolution?
Well, we may tag team that a little bit. The real expert is behind me, and she'll come up and speak. But in essence, this is a new, innovative approach, proactive approach to to monitor the COVID-19 virus. It's being utilized with the support of Syracuse University in some capacity in Onondaga County. It's being utilized in some other places. But it's new, and what it involves is being able to get a head start of a couple of weeks to indicate your testing of wastewater systems utilizing the Watertown system of potential spread of the disease, and then we can get into education and all that sort of stuff. But who's been on the front line, as she has with everything COVID related, is Ginger Hall, so we can have Ginger come and speak to on that topic.
Thank you, Ginger.
So wastewater epidemiology or surveillance has been used to detect polio, especially in those countries where the disease remains endemic, antibiotic-resistant bacteria, and currently they've started estimating the prevalence of opioid abuse in the U.S. community. So with the COVID-19 virus that has been hitting us so hard, research groups started looking at detecting the virus. So this virus is shed in the feces and then deposited in the sewage system. And it accounts for those who have been not tested and may have very mild symptoms or no symptoms. So it can be picked up sometimes 3 days even before they have symptoms in the septic system. Right now we're depending on someone not feeling well or mandatory testing requirements, getting tested, and then having those test results through the normal nasopharyngeal swab be analyzed. That takes time. By the time they get swabbed, by the time we get the results, then we start doing all the contact tracing. So the goal of doing this surveillance is that this virus will be picked up in the wastewater, and we'll know if there is prevalence of the COVID-19 virus. We are looking at doing it in the city of Watertown, because that's about 55,000, about half of our county, so it would give us a good indicator as to what's going on in the county. So once this is detected, they tell us the virus is here, then our goal is to start increasing education and measures to prevent damage to the health, economic, environment that's already happened, but to prevent it in the future. We're especially looking at this with the anticipation that there's going to be an increase in the virus again this fall, as it's being projected. So then we would do more education, put out press releases. There has been an increased detection of the virus in the wastewater, social distancing, wearing your mask. It is still prevalent in our community. Do not become relaxed, so that we can decrease the damage from this virus going forward. So our goal is, it's another tool in our toolbox. We need all the tools that we can get moving forward.
Okay, I know I have a question, but are there any questions from the members? Okay. One thing, when Mr. Hageman and I were talking about this, as far as the wastewater system of Watertown, it takes in so much from a lot of local municipalities in Fort Drum. If you do have a positive, what can be done to drill down further into particular communities that feed into the overall system to try to help isolate pockets better? Is that possible?
So there will be a protocol that the City of Watertown will receive for collecting the specimen, and they will know where they have collected it as to where that may be draining from. That will be the best detection it will have.
Okay. Mr. Monajelli?
Thank you, Chairman Peck, for recognizing me. I just have a question for the Director. Director Hall, so there's pump stations throughout the county to bring sewage to the sewage treatment plant in the city. So somebody's going to go to those stations? No, they're going to be at okay. So now, I mean, the sewage system goes from Fort Drum to, I mean, it's 55,000 people, but they're not in the city. 20 of them are here and 30 of them are out there or something, right? So, what's this telling you about, how would you find the location?
The City of Watertown should be able to narrow down where they're collecting the specimen from where it's coming in.
So at the sewage treatment plant,
Yes.
they can tell where the sewage came from? There's different...
My understanding.
I thought the lines just kept getting bigger until it got to the sewage treatment plant.
Well,
that's one. I mean, I know
I'm not sure on that.
on Route 3, when they do development out there, Legislators, Gerald, you know something about this?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. No. So begs my question is, isn't it a little late to wait till it gets to the sewage treatment plant to find out where it's coming from? I mean, I don't mean to be critical of it. It seems like they should be looking for it in sewage before it gets to the sewage treatment plant. Just a thought.
Yeah.
I'm not asking you to answer
no,
that.
I don't have that answer.
Possibly a city engineer, or Patrick, somebody with background in that would offer. Thank you, Chairman.
You're welcome, Mr. Monajelli. And that you're coming around to what I'd already asked her. And as far as the best knowledge that Ginger has, is what the city is telling her. So I still think probably, this gives us a good indication that if we are seeing a spike, then I think that's where I try to say whether it warrants being able to go out to the communities and actually take samples at the pump station. So that's, again, whether this can be a further work in progress to be able to, more closely isolate where clusters develop from. So,
Yeah, per specimen is how they will charge you.
Yes, I see that, $250 per sample. Mr. Jarrow?
I'm not sure on the length. I know they can pick it up sometimes as soon as 3 days, and they are projecting 7 to 14 days before the outbreak that they are detecting the virus. How long it will last after that point, I do not know.
So, I mean, obviously it doesn't now, especially in the now. So, how would we have to cut the period of time before we know if it's
Correct. Right.
and how long would we
Yes. Yeah. No, it's weekly. We're going to do one weekly specimen.
okay, so for that baseline, good data,
Right.
Which makes a presumption why they're doing it at the city makes the most logical location to start with. So that's where the biggest pool of population feeds into. Mr. Maxon?
Thank you. I would just add that it also stands to reason that if they detect a large amount of the viral DNA or RNA, whatever they're searching for, that at that point they could go to the pump station and narrow it down. Say, oh, it's coming from Carthage. Probably coming from Carthage.
No, they have their own septic system, which is not attached to
What?
Watertown. So. No, they have their own septic system that is not attached. Great Bend, yes. Mr. Hageman?
The point is really well made in that regard. And again, part of us is thought process. If there's going to be a second wave, knock on wood, we're at a very low level right now. So if it starts to increase, even now, so to speak, before there is, if there is a second wave, we're going to have a sense of things need to be ratcheted up a bit. Again, depending what that shows, and the likelihood of the contract, we can now kind of focus in on a particular area and narrow it down that way. And on the front end, we're just doing this kind of broad-based examination to see if things are ratcheting up. Honestly, perfect information from the control room group, but this isn't being offered in 7 different counties. We're taking advantage of the opportunity here. And then down the road, October, November, December, want that to happen, but if it's arrives in the second wave, very quickly we'll be alert to that and respond in a variety of different ways before it actually gets that's really the merit of this program. Parents, Alvin Syracuse has done here, but frankly, it's on the front end. I mean, I think they're learning as they go how things are applied. So we'll probably be working with them as part of an innovative team to kind of see how things can improve in time. It's a great place to start and something that we don't have to change very much. It's quite an asset. I would point out that money allocation, by the way, is like over. There's not a federal fund allocation. So it's probably very good usage of these dollars. Something I'm very proud of.
Mr. Maxon?
Well, that's a good point, Mr. Hagan, that for the social amount, it's also very interesting. I mean, to monitor viral load of half of our county is about $250,000. I mean, you probably spend $250 every time talking about it, right? To borrow a phrase from the last time. It's funny. I mean, it's hard for me to say we should spend money. So in terms of bucks, and until if you haven't seen the resolution, it will delay through the end of next year. So we have a limited notice equipment like that. $250 per year and a half. Not that bad.
We could end up spending a lot more in advertising, as far as a reactionary to, determining when an outbreak is done this way. That's why I certainly would encourage, continued conversation that if it can be a tool used to isolate, population pockets, it's an inexpensive way. It's just a matter of how long the testing takes, and the parameters, as Mr. Jarrow has said. I think this is going to be a very good program for us to take advantage of, and I'm very glad that you've brought it forward for our approval. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Doldo?
One question, maybe it's a little bit off from this, but it still all pertains to the outbreak or monitoring the outbreaks. A lot of us are still having trouble getting sanitation products, cleaning supplies, so if another outbreak was to occur, we're already struggling now. How are we going to control this if we don't have the disinfectants that we need down the road for this community, for people to take care of themselves? It's a huge concern for us because, again, it's a struggle every day. We are just not getting stuff to be able to clean with. So I don't know if that's on your radar and how other ways that we can do to fight this disease. But
So, number one defense, the mask, social distancing, good hand washing, soap, water. We are working with emergency management always to see if we can get additional supplies when we can. Right now it's been focusing more on medical supplies than it has. I know we have supply of hand sanitizer that we are using with our patients and, when we see patients, and having them come in our office staff as well. But we know that there will be supplies needed, and that's going to be a big push on many areas, medical supplies and disinfectants.
As far as the general public themselves being able to get it, obviously they're taking care of the emergency services first, and I understand that and get it, but when you've got people that have compromised systems and can't get the stuff, at what point do we get, the manufacturers on board? Because I know they're directing a lot more to everybody, in the community, that 911 and stuff like that, but these people need supplies and they can't get them. And, our hands are tied. We buy from many different people and we struggle to get stuff for ourselves, let alone other people. So I don't know if there's going to be a point in time where the manufacturers are going to be able to catch up. There's a big aluminum shortage right now, which, your disinfectants are made from aluminum. So I'm not quite sure where that's going to go either. So just a little heads up as to planning for down the road. If this second wave does come through, it does make us nervous. So.
Any further discussion on the resolution? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The second resolution for consideration, accepting funding and authorizing agreement in connection with Public Health Emergency Preparedness Program.
Is there a motion? Mr. Dodo, second Mr. Maxon. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. There are certainly several departmental reports here. Is there any questions about any of the reports in the packet? I would like to welcome in person Ms. Galarco to our meeting. So it's a pleasure to have you here. You have a large seat to fill, but I'm sure that you will enjoy your time here. So, and if there's ever any questions, you've seen Mr. Jarrow and Mr. Monticelli. They're more than welcome to ask questions, even though they're not members of the committee. Don't hesitate to raise your hand. So,
Mr. Chairman, I would
yes.
offer a suggestion. Everybody has a packet of stuff in front of them, and it's speaking of talking about COVID-19, it's masks and everything else. It was arranged through our chairman, Scott. Maybe you want to reference a little bit what some of this stuff is and the purpose of it, because it's not just for ourselves, it's for others, kind of the theme that Anthony was talking about. Great, thank you.
Thank you very much. And there's still one more committee meeting to go, so it made it worth the walk over. Is there anything further to come before the committee tonight? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Maxson, second. Mr. Dodo, all in favor?
Not that anybody cares, but I'm going to be 70 this year, and I'm making it to 80, goddammit. That was in jest, but in fact, I mean, that's the thing people at 70 say is, I want 10 more good years, 10 more good years. But then comes along and pandemic. 00, you know? Where's the 10 good years? Okay. I'd like to call to order the County Standing Committee on Finance and Rules to our June meeting. At this time, I'd like to offer the privilege of the floor. Does anyone care to address the committee? Seeing no one coming to the microphone, we'll move on to the minutes of the last meeting, the Zoomed minutes. Any corrections, deletions? Hearing none, they'll stand as presented. And this evening, we have a presentation. We're privileged to have College President Dr. Ty Stone and College Vice President for Administration and Finance, Dr. Daniel Dupe. Do I have to say the second? No. 'Cause your dad probably enjoys it. Right? I know I would. So they're here to speak to the JCC budget for 2021.
I'd just like to say thank you to everyone for having us here tonight to go over our budget a little bit, provide you some fast facts about the college and a little bit about our budget. And then Dr. Stone's going to come up for about the last 3 slides and kind of go through a little bit of our pandemic pieces. So this is our presentation overview. We're going to go over our points of pride, some fast facts, our budget presentation, pandemic response, and then planning for this fall. So one of the points of pride that we have is 66% of Jefferson County residents rated access to higher education as either excellent or good, and that was on the Center for Community Study that they do on an annual basis for Jefferson and Lewis counties. Some of the accomplishments that we had over the last year, we were again named to the Military Times Best for Vets. We were number 9 out of 28 two-year schools that were recognized. There's roughly 210 colleges recognized overall. Out of the two-year schools, we were number 9 out of 28. Again, named to 2019 Tree Campus USA site by the Arbor Day Foundation. Every year we apply for that. We typically get that. We do have a beautiful campus with many trees. Unfortunately, we do have the emerald ash beetle up there, so we do have quite a few that we're going to have to be replacing. We have recently received a grant, and we're going through and inventorying all our trees and getting a replacement plan in place. During the last fiscal year, we also finalized our 20 through 25 strategic plan, which was spearheaded by Dr. Stone and our entire college leadership. We were also featured on the cover of a national publication, which, when I go to this next slide, this is the picture from that national publication. It is the American Community College Journal by the American Association of Community Colleges. This was something that our facilities folks actually did. They put this in the window. Actually, one of the employees had gone by, saw it, took a picture, sent it to marketing. Looked great. We took it and sent it on, and we actually got the cover of this journal. So a great resource for the community. 92% of the respondents to our graduation survey were either employed and or continuing their education moving forward. We had 48 nursing graduates, which is an increase of 60% over the previous year. We provided 6,668 credit hours to 872 EDGE students. That's our concurrent dual enrollment students. Those are the students that are in high school taking college credits. And because they are in high school, they pay 1/3 tuition. That saved families in the North Country over $1 million in the last year, just on college credits. Our Center for Community Studies did several important community projects for several of our local not-for-profits. They did the Lewis County, the Jefferson County, all of those annual studies. We hosted community conversation and events. We did have the governor on campus, and Ty will remark to this, or she'll at least tell me if I'm wrong, but we were the only college campus in the community college campus in New York State that he visited during the time while he was doing his daily briefs. So we were the only community college that he went to. We supported the local economy with workforce development initiatives. One of the big ones that we did over this last year was the construction program. That construction program, it graduated roughly 50 students. We had two separate sets. I think we had the first set had 28, and then the second was about 24, 25 students. So those students all received jobs for the most part. I think it was about 95% of them received jobs in the construction industry right after they were done with that training. So some fast facts. For academic year 2019, we had 588 degrees that were certified, and we had 571 graduates. We had 72% of our students were from Jefferson County, which as a community college, that's one of the higher percentages of your total population being from your local support area. Typically you see 40 to 50% from out of the area now in a lot of the community colleges. Our top programs of study over the past year were business administration, criminal justice, humanities and social sciences, individual studies, and natural sciences. So our enrollment projections, we had COVID happen. So pre-COVID, we were anticipating to be down about 5%. I know those that have been on the board here for quite a while, if you remember back in 2008 when we had the last economic downturn, our enrollment shot up about 30 to 35% overall, so we increased quite a bit in that time frame. We've slowly started the decline from there as of about 12, 13. We were getting down to the point where we were leveling back out with pre-recession numbers, so we were coming back in line. With COVID and what we anticipate happening with enrollment, we're going to probably go down below those pre-recession numbers. And right now we were only projecting to be down about 5% prior to COVID. And you can see low unemployment rate for community college, typically that's the adult learner population. Our K through 12 population is declining around here locally. And Fort Drum, we had a couple things in the past academic year that Fort Drum was, and it wasn't Fort Drum necessarily, it was the GI Bill that soldiers and their families used. They had to wait a year before they could actually access those funds. So that really hurts enrollment when things like that happen. That has since been corrected, but those were issues that we were dealing with. So post-COVID, we just have a lot of uncertainty. We're projecting in this budget down 19%. We're doing well against that 19%. I think as of this morning, we were 12% down. So better than projected, but we have a lot of uncertainties around, if students are going to come when it's online. What are we going to be able to do with our residence halls? What are we going to be able to do with athletics? Those are all uncertainties that we have right now, and those can have a large effect on our enrollment. So one thing that we do see as a good uncertainty is that benefit of stay local campaign. So if you're gonna have to take online anywhere, why not do it here where it's affordable, where you're staying local, you're not spending the money on residence halls, you're not spending the money on meal plans, those types of things. So we're hoping that that'll offset some of the other losses that we've had. So our budget process, we advocated to the state. We basically wanted to see that continued flat funding that we received the previous year, which was 98% of our 18-19 budgeted amount. We did not get the flat funding. We went back to the FTE, which when you convert our FTE, it actually, because our enrollment was declining, we're actually going to see, at least at this point in time, $663,000 less in state aid than we did the previous year. Again, that's prior to COVID. There's been talk of an additional 20 to 30% cut, all the way up to 50% at one point in time, which would be considerable amount of money that we would have to cut, an additional $2 to $3 million, which is incredible. So total projected operating budget is $25 million. If you look back on those revenue sheets previously, we were in the $28.5 million range, so we're considerably down now. We're proposing a 2% tuition increase, which in the last 10 years is one of the lowest tuition increases that we've requested. And that tuition increase, we're looking at it from the perspective of we want to keep it off the students' back as much as possible. Our planned fund balance usage for next year is $749,000. Again, that's in the budget. We plan to use it. We hope not to use it. That's the goal. But that's what we have in the budget to balance it right now is $749,000. And we have no requested increase from Jefferson County in this budget. So as you can see, our focus is maintaining a high quality and affordable education for our communities. So this is my last slide, and I just wanted to show you a little bit about what our funding mix looks like now. Basically, our offset revenues are about the same overall. Where you see the big decreases in tuition and fees, that's down 5% in the mix from previous years. Again, that makes sense with enrollment going down. And the other pieces that went up from that is local share went up about 4%, again, because enrollment went down, local share stayed the same from the county's input, but our chargeback rate also went up, so that increases that chargeback amount that we charge other counties. And then state aid right now, even though it went down a little bit, is still an increase in overall. That went up about 1% over the previous year as a total of our overall. Now again, we look at state in the legislation says up to 40%. So you can see we're not very close to 40% still. So I will turn it over to Dr. Stone.
Again, thank you for allowing us to come and present to you today about our budget and our financial situation. One of the things that I want to offer is the $663,000 that we were talking about that we have put in our budget is what we know. So that was what was approved in the state executive budget. We have also been advised that we could expect a decline of our state funding of anywhere from 30 to 50% is actually what I'm hearing. So we actually have started planning operationally for the 30% reduction in state funding, which is about $2.5 million, okay? So I know that you've seen in the newspaper recently that we had to reduce our staffing by 20. That is in response to that projected 30% that we're expecting to see. Also, as we look at our enrollment, that is also 19% is roughly $2.6 million. So right there, we're talking about over $5 million gap that we've got to make up in some way. So again, that's one of the reasons why we had to do the reductions in staffing that we had to do. So 20 individuals total. So a couple things I want to share now. It's just our response to the pandemic, kind of what we've done. I've talked to a couple of you, so you know this, but I want to make sure that everybody understands what we had to do and what we're planning for the fall. So around the first part of March, as all of us got the call that we were pretty much shut down, the state made that decision. We were facing a situation where we actually had spring break the following week. So within 2 days, we decided to extend our spring break for a week. So instead of 1 week, we did 2 weeks. And that gave our faculty the time to convert 430 classes. So 430 classes in 2 weeks went from being face-to-face to remote. That meant also getting students out of the residence hall in 2 days. 170 students in the residence hall had to be sent home, and we had to coordinate all of that. And we had to make sure that our employees had appropriate remote work situations set up in their homes. So we were able to do that. We've seen minimal disruption in terms of college operations as a result of being in this remote environment, but it certainly isn't the best situation. And again, as you see there, we made adjustments in response to the proposed state aid reductions. So for the fall, people are asking us, what are we going to do? We started reopening our campus. People started coming back to campus last week, actually. Right now, it's my senior management team. We are there. We've been there for the past couple weeks. We are running all of the scenarios, deciding how we're going to do ingress, egress, one-way traffic, all the things that I'm not an expert at, but I'm learning. Making sure that we have the proper sanitation in place, making sure that we maintain social distancing, and that we reduce density. So we are working really hard on that. We also have to do daily, I saw I think it was you doing those screenings. We have to do that daily on our campus for our staff. So we have an app right now that we will launch starting the first of next week. That will allow people to every day certify that they don't have a fever and all of the things that we have to do with that. At this point, we do not plan to do testing. As a college, we are working with North Country Family Health, who is on our campus, to do some of that testing for us. That's not what we do, and I just don't know that we could do that well. So we're going to leave that to professionals. We are also implementing guidelines and preparing the plans for reopening. So we had to submit a proposal to the SUNY chancellor. I just got an email since I've been here that our plan was approved. So we are able to do some level of reopening. What that means for us is we are providing classes in 3 different modalities. That will be remote, hybrid, and face-to-face. Our face-to-face is going to be very limited, so for the most part, those will be classes that we just cannot do remotely. So it will be labs and things like that. The hybrid will be some of those classes that you have labs, but you also have some lecture, so part of it will be in person, part of it will be remote. And then remote will be a variety of different ways. We have asynchronous, which means that you do it at your own pace. Synchronous learning, which means that you go on at a certain time, kind of like you do your Zoom meetings, and faculty will have their lectures at that time. And then we also have some other modalities like doing correspondence if there are students that have issues with technology, access to technology. We are also currently assessing the risk for fall athletics. So we have not made the decision on our campus whether or not we will allow athletics. And SUNY is kind of all over the place. There are some colleges, community colleges, that are doing it, are offering fall athletics. There are some that are not. I'm still not convinced yet that it's the right thing for us to do. We have about another week before we decide. Is that right, about a week or so? And then finally, evaluating the safe operation of the residence hall. We currently have about 120 applications for people who want to come into the residence hall. Again, this is something that I am being conservatively optimistic about. Just want to make sure that if we do allow people to move into the residence hall, that we do it with the lowest risk possible, because we certainly don't want to be caught up in a situation where we have an outbreak of infection. So we are also looking to make that decision around the same time that we make the athletic decision. I think for the first time ever in my career, I've gotten to a point where I'm a little bit comfortable with saying we don't know right now, because we don't. And as you know, things change. Scott and I talk about this all the time. Things change sometimes on an hour-by-hour basis. So we've got to be flexible and maintain that flexibility through this crisis. In closing, I just want to say that we are committed to being a valued resource for the community. Dan was talking about some of the work that the Center for Community Studies has done that with nonprofit organizations. We also did some great work with the COVID response in this community. So we got Joel Alone and his team to come together and do a study really quickly that I think helped us prioritize some of the concerns in our own community and our businesses here. We want to continue to do that work. We also believe that we are a vehicle for economic development and workforce training. Please use us for that. That's what we're here for. And finally, next year we will celebrate our 60 years. We want to continue to do the great work that we're doing for another 600 years. I should have put another 0 there. Another 600 years plus. We certainly appreciate your continued support and your commitment, and we thank you for giving us this opportunity to be a part of this wonderful county. So do you have any questions for me? Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Stone, Dr. Dupuy. So do we have questions for Legislator Jarrell?
It's about 3.6 million. Yes. And I want to make note also that we have a remaining payment from the state that we are anticipating. It's $1.8 million. We just received notification that we are going to get $700,000 of that. So that's a little bit over $1 million that we hope to get some of it. We don't know that we'll get all of it. So part of that will also be, we'll also have to maybe hit our fund balance this year for what we don't get from the state.
Chairman, or Legislator Pack.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What's happening with the Lewis County Extension facility with all of this?
Right now we are closed. We have not opened up the Lewis County Education Center. We are also planning for that in the phased reopening. But we, you know, one of the things that I'm doing in this budget is we're really focusing on our instruction side of the house. So we are going to be, when we do open up, we'll probably be adding a couple classes. I know we have right now some credit classes in accounting, so we'll do some of that. I'm not sure how much we will do in workforce. Again, that's going to depend on what the economy is telling us that they need us to do.
I saw in the media today that the Deer River Wind Project is now officially given its go-ahead, so certainly Lewis County is going to be in need of many more tradesmen to be able to accommodate that massive project that's coming. So
we stand ready to help in any way we can with those types of initiatives.
Anything further? Dr. Stone, I'd like to say I appreciate your caution in opening the dorm and sports. I mean, both of those things seem so normal, and this is my personal take on it. I mean, we haven't seen mortuary refrigerator trucks parked outside of Samaritan, so we don't have a sense of the tragedy of this pandemic, and God forbid we won't see it. But the people just go about their business as if, well, the dorm should be open, we should be able to play baseball. Why can't we play baseball? What's that got to do with the pandemic? And it's shocking to me as a citizen of the county that people could be so blasé about this horrible disease. And maybe it's, I don't know what it is, but my perspective is your caution is greatly appreciated. And I would think there's a big liability issue as well.
Well, I think, you know, I have had one other job that I feel that literally life has been in my hands. I used to be an air traffic controller. And so in doing that type of work, and this is similar, I mean, I think the decisions that we make, really life is in our hands. So those are brainer types of decisions, and you've got to be prepared and make sure that you go through all of the scenarios just to make sure. I think that, you know, and Dan and I talked about it a lot, our primary focus on our college is the security and health of our staff and students and faculty. And if we say that, you know, even though it's definitely a difficult decision that we have to make, I think we have to at least spend some time and energy deciding whether or not it's the right decision for us to make. Certainly, there are some financial implications of doing that, but I still think that you can't put a price tag on people's lives.
Anything further for President Stone? Dr. Stone, the good news is the next three, I guess the next three resolutions are the county resolutions, so we put those up front-loaded it, so if you want to split after that.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you, Greg. Excuse me, Bob. Greg turned off that light, and then God turned on this one over here. Not quite sure what.
Of course.
So we'll move on to Finance and Rules sponsored resolutions.
So if you want to go in the order, number one would be
Yes.
first? Okay,
Yes.
all right.
Thank you.
Adopting the 2020-2021 Jefferson Community College budget.
May I have a motion, please? Legislator Gerald, Legislator Nabawanek, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Next resolution is appropriating from the conduct of Jefferson Community College for fiscal year 2021.
Motion, please. Legislator Johnson, Legislator Cantwell, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Third resolution this evening is appointing members to the Community College Board of Trustees.
Motion, please. Legislator Johnson, Legislator Cantwell, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. On to the fourth resolution.
Fourth resolution is authorizing the vacating of judgment of foreclosure for owners of certain parcels of real property and discontinuance of foreclosure proceedings.
Motion, please. Legislator Nabawanek, Legislator Jarrow, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Concurring in settlement of tax tertiary proceedings and authorizing refund of taxes in connection therewith, which is the Madison Barons.
Motion, please. Legislator Jarrow, Legislator Nabawanek, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing agreement of performance of a single audit of Jefferson County.
Motion, please. Legislator Johnson, Legislator Jarrow, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Next resolution is appointing elections commissioner.
A motion, please. Legislator Nabawanek, Legislator Drake, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing appointments and reappointments for the Jefferson Lewis Workforce Development Board.
Motion, please. Legislator Johnson, Legislator Jarrow, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Amending the 2020 county budget in relation to employment and training department.
Motion, please. Legislator Drake, Legislator Cantwell, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. TIBA.
Oh, sure. The last resolution, we sent that to you yesterday. Approval of request for renewal of a lease agreement between Thousand Islands Bridge Authority and the New York State Department of Transportation for airspace at the Thousand Islands Crossing.
Motion, please. Legislator Jarrow, Legislator Cantwell, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. I have a question for the administrator. I recall at the last physical meeting we had, somehow I dealt with the resolutions from the other two committees differently than we had been. Does anybody remember this? Yeah, I blocked them, and do you
Yeah.
recall that? Can we do that again? I mean, I know that's an alternative way of doing it, and I just want to not be... The redundancy bothers me, that we just go 5 minutes ago, general services,
That's
it?
certainly,
Yeah.
that's certainly fine. You
Okay.
can do that. If obviously anybody wants to have one pulled,
Pulled out, we would
could
do that.
as well.
So you'll just read the...
I'll just start reading.
Thank you.
Authorizing agreement with Federal Aviation Administration, Emergency Growth Enterprises LLC, which is No Form Systems, and McFarland Johnson Incorporated, in relation to the Watertown International Airport film foaming foam testing equipment, secret determinations related thereto, and amending the 2020 county budget and capital plan. Second resolution is amending the 2020 county budget in relation to Jefferson County's housing improvement program. The next is authorizing fiscal year 2019 Operation Stone Garden Grant Agreement and amending the 2020 county budget in relation thereto. And the fourth resolution is accepting the gift of motor vehicles from the state of New York for use in law enforcement.
Would anyone care to pull out any of those? Okay, so then I'd have do I need a motion to vote on them all, right? No.
So we just vote on it.
Okay, all in favor? Pardon, Legislator Jerry. Would you like to discuss something? Legislator Jerry. Sure. Thank you. Anything further? So all in favor? Opposed? And they are carried. I did wonder when we were listening to Director Hall and the surveillance of the waste, I wondered if Legislator Maxon was going to take an issue with that, but he didn't. But I wish he was here to hear me say that. You'll tell him, I'm sure. Okay. Well, at least we're a friendly group. Yes, Legislator Peck.
Now, if he was going to sample individuals' homes, that might create an issue, Mr. Chairman. I think, there's enough dilution to the issue that it makes a non-issue for Mr. Maxon.
Well put. Okay, well, there are some other items, informational items attached. Is there any further business for the committee?
One thing to make an observation on is all of you had a candy bar or something in front of you this evening when you got here. That's courtesy, or the last courtesy of a former legislator. That's what was in her particular drawer to be shared with all the board members one final time. This is from Carolyn, so everybody knows.
I did think of her when I saw it there, but I didn't stop to think it was from her. That was very nice. Anything further? A motion to adjourn? Legislator Johnson, Legislator Drake, all in favor? We are adjourned.